Welcome to the Healthy and Wealthy and Wise podcast with global sales trainer and professional speaker Lois Coffey. Each week, it is her goal to share inspiration and education for you to have the best health and wealth and wisdom for your life.
All right, everybody. Happy Tuesday. This is Coach Lois with a special episode of Healthy and Wealthy and Wise. I'm so excited. I don't normally come to you guys on a Tuesday. If you know my show and follow me, we do Fridays is when we do our live shows with guests, but I have a special guest today. Just finished reading his book, and this is a special episode also because I've never had a guest talk about Starseed. So we're gonna dive right in. I know that we'll have people coming in and tuning in here on the Healthy and Wealthy Wise live. And so if you're tuning in live, you know the drill. Please comment below #live and where you're tuning in from, city, state, country. We have viewers from all over the world, as well as if you're on the replay, because this is during your workday, do #replay and let us know. All right, cool. We already have someone tuning in from Texas, Austin suburb. Welcome. So good to see you, Stephen. Thanks so much for tuning in. So today we have Alexander Quinn, and I found him, I want to say it was last winter. I can't remember now. It seems like forever ago because so much has happened in my life for me. And I found him through a friend who actually was the author of the Club of Spiritualists, and he said, you've got to follow this guy. So Alexander, you didn't know this, but that's how I found you, and is actually your interview with Linda Good McGillis again some time back on your YouTube channel. And I just fell in love with him and his energy and his passion, and it was all part of my own personal spiritual transformation of understanding, who am I? And I've always felt like the black sheep of the family. I've always felt a bit of an outcast, and I've always felt a little bit different, Alexander. And so when I found you and then I read your book, don't know if you guys can see it, Starseeds, What's It All About? The 360-degree fast track to mastering ascension. I was like, oh my gosh, I really understand myself so much better. So today my hope for you guys is to learn about Starseeds, hear and experience Alexander's energy, and maybe get some answers, get some clarity. And at the very least, if you're intrigued, inspired, you got to get his book. So we'll talk about where you can get that later. So Alexander, you are the expert on, well, for me anyway, Starseeds and 5D ascension. So how did you get to be doing this? I'm very curious.
Okay, I was working in the music industry in Nashville. I was writing with John Bon Jovi's writer. I was in a band. I was in a covers band. On a Wednesday night playing with Kid Rock's lead guitarist Kenny Olson. I was dating a well-known country star. I was living like a kind of rock star pop life, totally different to what I'm doing now. And my sentiment was different, like everything. Like I was a completely different person. I wasn't spiritual at all. I was working in the music industry, and then I was at someone's house, and I was putting a glass on a shelf, and I slipped and fell, and I smashed my head open here, and I had a terrible accident, and I woke up in hospital with blood all around me, and it started a very profound spiritual awakening that was almost instantaneous. I started seeing spirits. I started seeing orbs. Later on, I started having ET experiences. I left the music industry completely, changed my diet, changed my lifestyle, started getting into spirituality, although it was not a total freak accident in terms that I fell into this line of work, because my great-great-grandmother was a survivor of the Titanic. She alighted an island because she got a premonition that the boat was going to sink, so she got off and survived. Wow. My great-grandmother was one of the first people to have a column in the Telegraph newspaper here in the UK. My uncle is a professional tarot card reader for politicians and people. My mother was a psychic. So it does run in the family, but it clearly took an accident to kind of kickstart something inside me to facilitate, these gifts and things coming out. Because I was leading a very linear, very basic 3D non-spiritual life. I had, not connected at all. I was doing, a lot of things that I don't do now. So So when I came out of hospital, I came back to the UK, and my whole life just fell away. I mean, everything. I had the tower card from moment from in a tarot deck, and everything just fell away. And these gifts started coming through, and then I started having ET experiences, connecting with spirit. Claircognizance, clairaudience, clairability started kicking in, and it just went from there. Built and built and built. Then I started the YouTube, then I wrote the book, and Dolores Cannon's people signed it, Ozark Mountain. So that's incredible. So, it's like Ozark Mountain, Dolores Cannon's like the Michael Jackson of the metaphysical spiritual world. So, for me to send my manuscript over there and then get a reply back is like, it's like listening to Led Zeppelin your whole life, and then Atlantic Records saying, hey, we want you to be on board, sort of thing. So it's really, I took this massive leap of faith. Everyone said, don't do it. You're wasting your time and never go anywhere. You'll be broke. It's a financial big mistake. Don't do this. A lot of people try to stop me. And it's really just gone from strength to strength. It's just been so abundant, so beautiful. And I get to help so many people on a day-to-day basis, working with clients, doing groups. Obviously, the book is selling, internationally all around the world at the moment. And it's a massive learning curve for me, every single day. So it's just been an explosion over a very short period of time. And I'm so blessed. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of a responsibility, but it's so cool, and I love it.
I know, and I'm glad that you had that spiritual awakening, and I believe a lot of people. I talked to thousands of people over the past 2 years. Had my own, I call it second level spiritual awakening, because I had one many years ago, and this one has been so profound, and I've studied a lot of ascension. So I wanted you to come today to talk to my audience, and a lot of them have not heard me talk about this openly. So this is, like we called it earlier, coming out of the closet spiritually. That's what we're focused on. But anyway, so can you just give them maybe the fifth grader definition version of what is a starseed?
A starseed is someone that came to Earth basically to help raise its vibration and break down systems, use their vibrational energy to help other people's Merkabas and hold the density, raise the light, help restore the crystalline grids of the Earth, and help their ancestry paths which have been damaged on Earth, and also help Gaia transmute all the old energy and bring it into a new higher density, vibrational, dimensional, multi-dimensional world on a different timeline. Because what we do now also affects the past and the present, because there's no linear time on the other side. So we're healing the past and the future all at the same time as we go into the end of ages, which is Aquarius. It's the very last age. We have a Pisces, we have Leo, Taurus. So as we go through the procession of the equinoxes, which is a roadmap of the stars, which is plotted out as the constellations. As you look up, where before the sun rises, in the eastern sky, I do believe it's the eastern sky. I think I've got it in my book, but that's where the constellation rises that we're currently in at this moment in time. And we're just coming into Aquarius rising at this moment in time, coming out of the end of the age of Pisces into Aquarius. It's the end of the ages. It's the last constellation. So it concludes a 20,006 year period as we go around the star of Alcyon, which is the great central star in the Pleiades, because our system goes around not only around the great central sun in the center of our galaxy, but around Alcyon, and it concludes a whole lot of a whole period of time where we've been in a lower, darker, denser part of not only our galaxy, but in terms of our consciousness, in terms of our DNA. And we're going from 2-strand DNA back up to 12. We don't need to have a 24-strand DNA like some ETs. And Earth is a fast-track free will experiment. There's no place like Earth outside of our galaxy, or some people say the universe. It's a fast-track experiment where only the best of the best come to learn spiritually. That's why it can be such a hard place for people to learn. And just before you put in the next bit, we're talking about suicide awareness and suicide prevention and things like that. That's why a lot of souls come here, and they don't want to be here because it's too dense for them. So they check out. That's part of it. But it does get easier.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. And I just want to give a shout out. If you're just joining us, again, Alexander Quinn here, all the way from the UK. So I know it's later there for you. But if you're just joining us, please tell a city, state where you're tuning in from. I think this is my husband. So I just wanted to give a shout out to my husband and hashtag Aquarius. I love it. I love it. Yeah. And this is for those of you who have maybe not been following my podcast. I shared this with Alexander. This month is a very important month. It's Suicide Awareness Month. A lot of mental health concerns. You know, the world has changed, and I think it's a good segue. You know, you just talked about people who can't handle the pressure, the density, and then they commit suicide or they even die, right? It doesn't have to be a gruesome death. It's just there's so much heaviness, is what you're saying.
Yeah, a lot of people who try to commit suicide actually get brought back. You know, not all of them do pass over. They get brought back, and you know, the ascended masters and their guides bring them back and say, "Hey, it ain't your time yet." So that's where you get a lot of these NDEs. Also, you get NDEs on the operating table as well. So yeah, it's some people want it to be their time, but they come back, and they have to work through generational curses, generational densities, and fill out their soul contracts and missions, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue. So I've shared this a lot with my clients just recently because I went through a lot of pain, a lot of grief, a lot of loss in leading up to really from my first awakening in 2007 to 2021. I had 10 friends commit suicide. My mom died. My dad died. My brother died of alcoholism. You know, so there's all of these wounds, the mom wound, the dad wound. There was a lot of shame, worthlessness, all of the stuff. And by following you and a few others, I didn't feel alone. I was like, oh, it's okay to feel. It's okay to look at my shadow because I don't know what it's like in the UK, but in America, it's all about happy, positive. Don't never let them see you sweat. You got all your shit together. Everything's perfect. How are you? I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Right. And yet you talked about generational curses. And I know that that's why I came here was to break those. And I had to, right. Go through those wounds, really feel them, really look at them, even though that was very painful and scary, right? Now I'm through a lot of that, and I feel so much more love, so much more joy, so much more bliss. So, from your perspective, when you talk about generational curses, let's talk a little bit about why it's so important for us to work through these wounds as star seeds, or even if they don't know if they're a star seed. Can you speak to more why that's so important?
Well, in an inverted matrix, all the codes are inverted in the wrong way around. So, so we're taught that we have to be in this blissful, happy state all the time. A lot of people in the spiritual community, we have things called chakras or energy meridians of the body, starting with the crown at the top, the root at the bottom, the heart in the middle, the gateway between the physical and non-physical. A lot of people in the spiritual community or the spiritual world, empaths, people with master numbers 23. 11, 33, people who are very intuitive, they want to try and spend a lot of time. This is a problem for awakened people and unawakened people, because a lot of people in the spiritual community, they want to be all in the crown, in the third eye, in the non-physical. They want to be out of their body all the time because the physical world, was too difficult for them. So they want to have a non-physical experience, but we're going to take our body in with us into a higher vibration. So it's really, really important actually now, with these massive solar activities, Aurora Borealis coming in, these CMEs, these big punch gamma waves that are coming from our sun, activated by things that are going on, other things I'll explain that in a minute, but they're activating our DNA. So we've got a lot of gamma waves coming to Earth. We've got a lot of electromagnetic alteration happening at this moment in time on Earth and off Earth. We talk about the Schumann resonance, all this kind of stuff. And it's really, really important that we are switching on our DNA. But, a lot of trauma, a lot of sexual trauma as well, and abuse is often caught up in the lower meridians of the body, the sacral, the root. And we've got to do our root work. We've got to release all this a generational and ancestral trauma that sometimes comes back through and sometimes manifests as disease and things like that. Sometimes it can be issues in this lifetime. but you can't go into a higher vibration or an ascended planet carrying a dark remembrance, not only in your consciousness but within your cellular makeup. So you've got to heal that, but not only as an individual but as a collective, so that we can go up into these higher vibrations. And those that really struggle to do that, can't do it on a cellular level, especially much older people who are not in good health. They are passing over. And we had a massive reset. I won't say the word because some of the algorithms don't like it, but the 19, a lot of people left Earth during that time. And as we get these massive waves, we're getting a lot of, we are getting more and more people leaving. So now's an important time to just to take a little bit extra care in the body, hydrate, all these sorts of things. Because when for example, when I get in touch with Arcturians or mantis beings, and I'm doing my meditating, or I'm channeling something, my heart has to be open. All my chakras have to be aligned. My heart has to be open. It has to be clean. I can't go in having had a massive argument with my girlfriend, thinking that I hate her, because you can't reach those higher vibrational densities and match the and it's the same with our collective. So we have to heal all these things in our heart, but all the wounding in our root and sacral and all these things, both in this lifetime and the previous lifetimes, because it changes the dimensional timelines in the past and in the future. So it's imperative we do that first as we're going up, because you can't go forward unless that is done.
I love it. Yeah. And I recognize that. And I talk a lot about it more now with my clients as a sales coach. If you want to sell from a loving space, a heart-centered space, you got to work on your own heart, right? And work through the not enoughness and the not worthiness and all of that. So, I know inside of the book, and I do want to mention, if you guys have any questions, this is the beauty of doing this live, Alexander. I love it. If anyone does want to throw down a question, this is a good time to start doing so, because depending on how many questions we have, we may go longer with this show. So this is a great opportunity to ask questions, and hit the share button. Sharing and caring, if you know someone, especially if they're struggling with mental health, or if they're struggling with these ancestral wounds or past life wounds, and they're like, I don't know what to do with this. That's another reason why we're bringing awareness to this, because we want people to know that they are not alone, and they're not going crazy. So you talked about the first wave Starseeds, and I would like for you to share a little bit more about that, because that was very powerful for me. And I don't know if I don't remember if you broke it down to like certain years or a Gen X, or where that cutoff is from the second wave. But can you talk about first wave, what they did to lay down the groundwork, and then what the second wave is being called to do now?
Yeah, and we also need to. I definitely we need to give Nancy Ann Tapp and Dolores Cannon an honorable mention, because Dolores Cannon was living on a Navy air base in the late 60s, as a hypnotherapist, trying to work with people with smoking and eating disorders, and she was actually so prevalent, so efficient, so good at the work that she was doing. She went far beyond the consciousness into the super consciousness, and as she started connecting with ETs, past lives on this planet, lives on other planets. And increasingly, as time went on, because after the years of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, an alarm bell went out into our galaxy from Gaia, the Galactic term for Earth. That was to say, we need to get a grip here, because this is the 6th time that we are giving Earth a go. And if we don't make it this 6th time, we weren't going to get through, and the Earth was basically going to be scrapped. So there have been 5 major extinction events on the Earth, and this is the 6th time that life is going to try and give it a go. So she noticed that as she was going into the superconscious of all these clients, as time went on, the first massive wave was in the 60s, and it was very prevalent for everyone to see in an obvious way, the Summer of Love in 1967. That was the first really, really big wave. But Dolores Cannon started seeing that there was waves of people coming in. So the first wave was the baby boomers. The second wave would be around in their 30s and 40s, and then the third wave are much younger. So people probably in their their 20s and below. And then you got the crystal children, you got the rainbow children, and now there's even a new term coming in, diamond children, who are the ones that are just being born in the years around this time. So the first wave had it the hardest. They were the souls coming into all these souls coming from Andromeda and all our local star systems flooding in, because the problem is that there are cosmic laws. You can't just come in here and start playing with the planet, because it's a free will planet. So how do you raise the planet's vibration without interfering with cosmic laws of divine non-interference and non-intervention? That's why we don't have ETs just landing all over the place, reptilians and angels just kind of showing up and going, yeah, hi man, woo, the party. So what they did is the Galactic Federation arranged for a whole load of souls to land here, unbeknown to various other, the Watchers, the Anunnaki, reptilians, and so on, other beings that were, had an influence on things that are already going here. And all these souls with very high vibration and coding already enveloped into their being started embodying human bodies, and then started working from the inside out. So it's kind of almost like a backdoor approach. So they're not actually interfering with free will and the cosmic plan. So we have all these waves of starseeds coming in. So these high vibrational human beings, who are empathic, who are very intelligent, who are very heartfelt, who are, often have master numbers, 11, 22, 33 in their life path numbers, in their destiny number, in their soul urge number. And they're coming in and they're breaking down systems, educational, the teachers that used to teach the children some of these starseeds are now becoming teachers, and they're changing educational systems, banking systems changing. The big reconstructing years, we're in them right now. And around 2027, we're going to start to see all of these changes really come into place. And the C19 years, I won't say the word, but C19, that was the first, that was like a sledgehammer coming down and cracking the nut. So the starseeds are coming in and doing all this work and changing everything up, but also vibrationally, and helping the crystalline grids of the earth and everything, and so on and so forth. And it's growing and growing and growing. And they're about people think there are anywhere for 400 million starseeds on the planet right now. I actually think there's more like a billion personally. So you're getting a lot of people waking up and this feeling like, I've never been here before. This is my first time being on Earth, so on and so forth. And, and hypnotherapists are seeing it when they judges, all colors, creeds, background, races, class systems, people who are, supposedly in rigid beliefs about religion, are going into hypnotists and going into super ego and saying, I've never been here before. This is my first time being on Earth. What am I doing here? And they're waking up and going, oh my God, that's not my personality, because my doctrine is I'm a lawyer. I brought up in a strict Catholic family. So you're seeing more and more of this.
I love it. Yeah, I think we do have a question, and I wanted to honor that really quick and see if you have anything to share with us. And I apologize, when you're on Facebook, sometimes I can't see your face because of StreamYard, but or what your name is. So my starseed shows up as a mission realm starseed. These characteristics really show up throughout this journey. Thoughts? I'm trusting you know what that means.
My starseed journey shows up as a mission realm starseed. These do you know what I don't know what I've never heard a mission realm starseed before personally. Usually when I'm working with the people, I do a bit more work to go a bit deeper and but we all have different soul contracts. We all come in here sometimes for a long period of time. Sometimes we come in as the black sheep of the family. We all have different missions and things that I don't know what a mission realm starseed is personally, but the black sheep of the family actually comes in to help dispel generational curses, ancestral wounding, healing, damaging, things like that. And that's why they stand out. They're actually the teacher for the family. They're the one who's different. And they're actually, they're the one who, they don't always, they're like, oh my God, this can't be my family, because why did I incarnate into this one? I'm so different. But actually they're the teachers, energetically breaking down all the patterns and stuff. Mission realm question from Gail. Andromedan starseeds are from the angelic. Yeah, I mean, Andromedan. The Andromedans work with the ascended masters. I mean, the Andromedans talk about Sananda, Jesus, as the favorite son. So people forget, they think the ascended masters, the ETs, the angelics, they're all different realms and they don't touch. They're all working together with each other, or doing different things in the background, and the veil is getting thinner and thinner. The reason the veil is getting thinner and thinner is because the electromagnetics of the Earth are changing. The gravity of Earth is slightly changing. The poles are slightly shifting, and as the electromagnetics of the Earth changes, the veil comes down, and you can see beyond the veil we become more multidimensional. Our clair abilities kick in, clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance, and all the rest of ones. We, more of our DNA becomes awakened. We go from 2-strand DNA up to 12-strand DNA. We have 24 chromosomes. The 24th one is actually quantum, linked to Lemuria and the Pleiadians. And that 98% of DNA, which supposedly scientists just think is junk, is starting to switch on. So we're embodying more of ourselves. So it's a remembrance going back to who we were. It's not going back to something new.
I love that. Yeah, it's all about remembering who we truly are and return to love. That's one of my favorite quotes is, we don't always, it's not fear really that is the fear of the darkness. It's actually the fear of our light and being able to
absolutely.
Pack all of that and to shine our light. That's why, guys, if you're curious, like Lois, this is a different topic on healthy and wealthy and wise. Well, for me, this conversation was a lifesaver. If a year ago, I was a binge drinking workaholic. I thought my marriage was, going downhill fast, and I actually hated myself because I was that black sheep of the family, right? And I didn't understand all of this energy and all of these feelings and these dark thoughts. And so I had to go do a deep dive within. And that's why my spiritual mentor recommended Alexander's channel, because it was so comforting to know that not only am I not alone, that there's other people out there, but in your book, you talk about ET phone home. We are not alone. We're never alone. And that was so comforting, Alexander. So I don't know if you can maybe speak to that a little bit of how do we tap in? First of all, how does someone know for sure if they're a starseed, and does that even matter? It would be my first question. And then if we want to tap in, how do we tap into that universal consciousness, that ET phone home?
Well, and just before we get there, I just want to finish off the thread we were talking about, because in an inverted matrix, everything's been flipped upside down so that we're in a lower density. We're not allowed to feel. We're not allowed to have intuition. We're not allowed to be in the heart. And your psychic abilities and everything are all feeling and intuition that come from the heart and not the mind. So when you're doing your shadow work and you're releasing your trauma and you're releasing your densities, you have to feel that in order to bring it to the surface, to alchemize it. So that sometimes that can, density can come up as depression, or it can come up as you're not feeling great. It has to come up and out to alchemize it. So the more you suppress that, it stays in the body, and eventually, your body's not in ease anymore. When your body's not in ease, you go into dis-ease, which is disease. So all of that trapped emotional trauma and energy gets into the meridians of your body, and it creates cancers and all these sorts of things. So it's fine to say you feel depressed, all these things, to talk it out, because as you speak, you're spelling, and also it releases it from your subconscious. And also there are creative ways that you can get your depression and your anxiety and all these things out, and as you create, you heal. So that's why you get a lot of songwriters who write about all these things, because as you create, you heal. Feeling. So it's really, really important to get into your feeling, because when I'm tapping into, I do readings for clients. I use my third eye to see into what is going on, but I don't use my head. I use my higher heart intelligence. It's a feeling, not a thinking. The two are very, very different. It's like the ego and the higher self. There's a battle there, the intuition. So, going on to, how do you know you're a starseed? It's a very, very big topic, and it's very multifaceted. A lot of starseeds wake up to the idea that they might be a starseed. They start thinking about it. That sometimes that alone is intuition enough that you probably are, if you're having those thoughts, because it means something, a part of you is actually waking up. personally, I always like to have a client session and go a bit deeper, find out what star system they came from, do a soul reading, stuff like that. But if you're interested in UFOs, if a spiritual side of you is waking up, if you think that you need to get out of the matrix, you need to get out of the 3D world, you don't fit in, you probably are a starseed. You're probably a multidimensional being incarnated in the body, especially if you're a black sheep in the body, especially if a lot of autistic people on the spectrum, people who don't fit in, creative people. People who were bullied at school often are starseeds, things like that. So there's a lot of different levels and layers to it.
I love it. Perfect. There was a quick question here. I think this might be Gail as well. Is there a possibility that the Earth will miss our 6th opportunity to ascend?
There is no possibility that we will miss our 6th level. The Earth did ascend in 2012 as predicted by the Mayans, but it was a close call. We only just hit the marker at the 11th hour. It was a close call. Now, we ascended in 2012, and I can hear all of your audience saying, yeah, but it doesn't feel like it. I don't see it. And that's because time on the other side, galactic light years pass very, very quickly in a much higher, multidimensional, higher density reality. Earth is a very dense, sludgy, thick, treacle-like reality to wade through. So what, as we ascended in 2012, it happened instantaneously. So the Galactics are already aware. They know it's happened, but it takes years to filter down into our reality, sometimes 10 years. And we're only just starting to see 1 or 2 of the benefits of that now in our lower dense reality. But we did ascend in 2012, and it's now a done deal. Just because you can't see it and you can't think it, it is not real. You have to feel it. It's like when I'm in communion and I'm doing contacting ETs, nocturnes, and so on and so forth. It's a feeling. Sometimes when I put out a video and I say, and I do like this month, I'm going to put out a video on my YouTube all about the energy of September. There are some things you can't see, but people say, well, I didn't see that. That never happened. And I said, well, your eyes will deceive you in a lower density. The spirit world is the unseen world. You can't see the spirit world. You have to feel it and tap into it with your feeling and your high heart intelligence and your third eye. So energy is the unseen world. You can't see it with your eyes. You have to tap into it. And that's when you have to be intuitive and multidimensional, all the rest of it. So the Earth did ascend in 2012. We have done it. We have pipped the marker. We didn't have to blow ourselves up, which is what the ancients potentially predicted if we didn't get it right. The Palladians blew themselves up with nuclear technology. And actually some of the angelics actually saw even further back. They thought around the Cold War, when the Berlin Wall went down, that we actually might have done it even then, around the harmonic convergence, which is 1987. That's why in 1987 they said that the potential of Earth, we might actually do this. So that's when the energetic grids and the electromagnetics of the Earth started shifting. So that we did cross the marker, which is what it was looking very likely. The energetics, the electromagnetics of this Earth have to be ripe and changed enough for our conscious to develop as well. So that's the ionosphere measured by the Schumann resonance, Dr. Schumann. So when you go to 2016, the Schumann resonance had been sitting at which is the calling card of Earth, 7.83 for all of recorded human history. And then in 2016, we got this beep, and everyone's like, that's strange. It went up to 30. Never seen that before, ever, in the whole of recorded human history. And they thought it was an anomaly. Wow. And then it went boop again, and then it kept boop, 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 like it was like a party, going like this, and it kept going up and up and up, up and up. So we're seeing these massive electromagnetic changes, and if you look at the permissible tolerances of the actual navigational systems that they use for boats, Google Maps, all these things. So a couple of years ago, it was so outside the permissible tolerances for navigational apps and things, they had to rewrite it. So as you go up into a high electromagnetic world, and the pole, the pole is skittering away from Canada over Siberia. You can actually you can track it. You have to, the earth has to change herself. It's not just us doing it. The earth Gaia is doing it too. She's changing, she's shifting. And that's why you're getting a lot of beaches. You're getting a lot of whales beaching themselves. Migratory routes of birds changing. That's why you got people leaving their jobs. It's happening to the humans as well. We've got the great resignation years. Is that a fluke? Is that a coincidence? Everything is changing. People that had old relationships in an old energy are getting divorced. They're leaving their old relationships. They're getting into new relationships. They're changing their jobs. They're changing who they are. They're changing what they eat. They're changing how they live. They're changing how they're thinking. We're getting ascension. We're getting the heart palpitations. We're getting the dizziness. We're getting diets are changing, all these things. So you can physically see it in the body. Psychology is changing as our DNA is switching on, which is being influenced not only by the electromagnetic sphere and the ionosphere, which is from here to 30 miles above us, but also from all the gamma, which is being emitted by our sun in these massive waves that you keep seeing all the time, which is affecting our DNA and turning us on.
I love it. Oh my gosh. My third eye is firing right now. I'm just so excited. You have no idea. I love hearing this. I'm geeking out over here. Thank you so much. Because when I think about 2016 too, that was a massive year politically for the US. There was a lot of people dying. Prince died that year. There was a lot of, I think, the intensity of the Schumann resonance, right? And correct me if I say improper terms because I am newer to this, a lot newer than you, but the light, like even the solar flares, is putting a light on the Earth's shadow, right? And forcing us to all, I think, go within and start questioning, why am I here? Why am I triggered by that president or that event or that thing, right? It's all bubbling up to the surface.
Absolutely. Well, look at the Me Too movement, for example. Look at the Me Too movement. Look at all these truths that are coming about about our systems and things. If you take a fluorescent light in a well-lit room and you shine it on a kitchen surface, dirt appears that was always hidden in plain light. So when the new age spiritual community talk about there being more light on this planet than ever before, there's darkness now appearing in plain light that was always there. Yeah.
100%. I mean, with George Floyd, what happened here in America, I mean, that was felt around the world. The racism, the sexism, just a lot of things are being openly discussed 100%. And I think that's important for people to understand why, because there is that doom and gloom. The sky is falling, the world is going to hell in a handbasket, right? But knowing what we're talking about here, oh my gosh, we can alchemize it, as you said. So how can someone, if you have any quick tips, and I know I talked about the ET phone home, and we'll get to that if we don't run out of time or if we have more questions, but how does someone who believes they're a starseed, they're feeling depressed, they're going through this stuff, do you have any quick tips on how to ascend a little faster or to work through that shadow work a little bit more efficiently?
Yeah, absolutely. The best way you can ascend is to go onto Amazon and buy my book. It's $14.99. It's $14.99, and all the information is in there. And if you could buy one for all your family as well, that would be great.
I'm so glad you brought that up because, of course, this is all about the book. We want to make sure everyone buys the book. So go buy the book.
No. On a serious note, I had to. I wanted to have a bit of fun because. When I contacted a mantis being recently, and people think these ETs are very serious. They have a sense of humor as well. You have to laugh and play, but how do you alchemize and transmute? That was your question, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
The way you do it is you need to live in your authenticity. And a lot of people in an old energy, prior to 2012, didn't live in their authenticity because they weren't getting the signals. Everything was about an external world. Everything you had to be told what to do. Your parents told you to go and be a doctor. The external world told you you could be, what you couldn't do. No one had a feeling. No one had an intuition. It wasn't the intuition saying, oh my God, I'm getting this intuition from inside. That's who I need to be. That's who I need to go. And that's what I need to go and do. No, it was everything in an inverted matrix the other way around. The external world always telling you what you had to go and do. You had to go and do a 9 to 5 or whatever, or something that, it wasn't in your authenticity, as opposed to your creation being coming from the inner world first, and then manifesting out and influencing your external. It was in an old energy, always the external, creating your reality, and then influencing your inner world. So we're coming out of that inverted, reality matrix now, and it's about people living in their authenticity and chasing what is their highest excitement in life. That's why, if you look at some of the biggest entrepreneurs, like you look at Mozart, Beethoven, all these people, Van Gogh, all these great painters, thinkers, the external world didn't dictate to them, who they were going to be. It always started within them first, and they knew it. They knew it, baby. And then they pushed that out to the external world because they had all the codes inside them. So it's about living in your authenticity. It's about speaking your authenticity, flipping the inverted matrix round so that you're manifesting from the inner world first. It's about releasing the ego, listening to the higher self, creating the world that you want first from the inner. And it's about eating a little bit lighter, staying more hydrated, exercising a little bit more, and being more in the heart. Because as we go up into these higher energies, we can feel a bit schizophrenic. We can feel a little bit more. We can feel a bit crazy. And we get into the head, and the ego doesn't understand these higher multidimensional energies. So what does it do? It panics. So the ego starts panicking. Oh my God, I don't know what to do. I'm panicking. I don't understand the new me. I don't understand the new me that's coming in. I feel like everything's falling away. Oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm panicking. I'm going to start medicating. I'm going to start smoking. I'm going to start drinking. All the stuff. So you got to go in the heart, because the higher heart intelligence is the root that's going to help you diagnose where the next step is. And for people who don't know how to do that, I use Ikigai. Ikigai is something that, go and look it up. It's spelled IGKI, something, whatever. I'm dyslexic, but
I got it. It's IKIGAI. I'm actually adding it inside of my membership community because I totally resonate with it. It makes so much sense. Keep going.
Yeah. So just from, if you can't intuitively feel into, where you're going next in a higher energy, as you get into your authenticity, use Ikigai. Look at your soul urge number, look at your life path number, look at your destiny number. If you don't know how, Google it, do the work, research it. Look at Ikigai. If you cross these different things, it gives you your passion, your mission, your vocation, your profession. And when you have these 4 themes all together and they dovetail, you get your new multidimensional 5D self, your pure authenticity, whether you go and work for another company or whether you start up your own business. So that's a really great thing to go and look it up. Go to Google images. I know everyone says Google is evil, whatever. I don't care. Go and get on Google, because it's a tool you can use that will help you get to what you want. Use evil to help you get to where you want to go, and click on Google Images and get Ikigai up and look at the possibilities. And if not, on a serious note, do read my book. Look at Starseeds, people coming to Earth. The old systems falling away, the new system, and how that works scientifically, metaphysically, spiritually. Why we're waking up, because there's a lot of science in there as well.
I love it. Yeah, I just have to give a shout out to that, because reading the book helped me. And you did a quick research before we hopped on the show, but knowing that I'm deeply Andromedan, Orion, Canis Major, I don't know what that means yet, but then the Arcturian. Oh my gosh, I'm like a badass. Like, I really love myself even more now. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I got to go research this.
Yeah, you have a lot of Andromedan traits. Yeah.
Yeah, and to know thyself, like you said, we're so used to being told who to be how to be, what to wear, what not to wear, right? There was that reality TV show. It's just like keeping up with the Joneses. I see a lot of comparison, is where the depression comes
Yeah.
from. And even for myself, comparing myself to, that their spiritual gifts are faster growing and better than mine. There must be something wrong with me, right? Because I was looking outside myself for the answers. And I love what you said about how this time is really forcing us to go
Yeah,
within.
and know thyself is so important. Like 80% of the world's population, 90% of the world's population, they spent lifetimes working in the wrong jobs, being made redundant and then going back to the same jobs. Spent lifetimes eating the wrong foods, being in the wrong relationships. Because if you know thyself, you wouldn't do that. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
this is why some of the greatest artists, some of the greatest entrepreneurs, some of the greatest musicians, songwriters, they really knew who they were on a heart level, and then they put that art out into the world, and it resonated with so many people because it was real. No, they felt it in the heart, they felt it in here, and that's why people bought, like I don't know, like millions of copies of Joshua Tree by U2 or whatever, or a picture by Van Gogh, Starry Night, or these creations.
Yeah, that's why I was a huge Prince fan. In fact, if you go to my profile right now, the Prince cover photo, his quote is, "Despite everything, no one can dictate who you are to other people, and if you know thyself, you don't care what other people think." Right, Alex? I mean, you want to be a good brother, sister, human, family member, and it is all about returning
Mm,
back to love. But if you love yourself so much because you truly
mm.
know and own who you are, would the world peace would happen like now if everybody
Yeah. Well,
deeply loved.
that's a very true statement, but it goes beyond that. It's actually it is important to, but if it's not, yeah. I mean, you don't care what other people think, but more importantly, what other people think doesn't affect you anymore. It doesn't override you.
That's it. That's a great way to put it.
Because and this is a word some people in the spiritual community don't like, but I like to use it because you're in your sovereignty. And I know it's a word that comes from politics. It's a 3D man-made word. It's not a galactic term, or you could say you're in your own power. And that's when you have compassionate detachment, observational neutrality, and you're not getting triggered by everything. You're in
Yes.
balance. You're in balance like the masters, like Jesus.
Yes, because those triggers, and I can speak to this autobiographically, as they takes up so much headspace. Like you can't see the forest for the trees if you're, in that trauma loop over and over and over again.
But it is really, really important. The universe and spirit brings us people to show us things. So it is important to watch what the people around us are showing us, because sometimes they are portraying the mirror image of things within us that we need to heal within ourselves. That's how we work as a collective. We're all working with each other, for each other, to help each other, but also show each other different parts of our wounding, feminine and masculine, and our shadow work that need to come up as density to come up and up. But sometimes we can't always see it in ourselves. We have to have someone else to trigger us in order for us to see it. But there's a difference between seeing it and being triggered by it, because when we're triggered by it, we're not in control of what we're seeing. We're seeing it, but we're too much into the trigger of it, and we're over feeling it, and then we come out the heart, we go back into the head, we overthink it, and then we act in the wrong way.
Yeah, I will tell you this, and I don't know if you can speak to this. And I know, guys, if you have any questions, this is your last opportunity to throw them out. We're going to be winding down here. I shared with you, I actually read your book over Labor Day weekend and enjoyed it while doing ayahuasca in Joshua Tree.
Great.
And it was so amazing. We call her grandmother ayahuasca. It was like I wish I had popcorn because I felt like I was at the movies, and it showed. And this has happened actually under mushrooms as well. I'm a huge fan of shamanic healing with plant medicine. I think plant medicine's making a huge impact and comeback right now because of this ascension process. But I saw my whole life flash before my eyes, all the villains, all the heroes, all the signs, and the teachers, I call them now, even the most painful traumatic events were such invaluable teachers for me and were very humbling. And I cried and I cried and I cried, and I got it into the cellular level. I felt like I was being recoded to then now be way less triggered and just love my family so much. Love any past, people who betrayed me. Just say thank you so much for the lessons. So that was one of my biggest awakening experiences.
It's important to love yourself. People think that is self-serving, but it's not, because we don't love ourselves. We are separated from ourselves. We're separated from God. We're separated from all that is. And we don't love ourselves. And that's why we constantly have to be infatuated about having someone else in our lives to feel whole, because we can't feel whole first.
Yeah. Amen to that. Yeah. Loving yourself is the key to loving others unconditionally.
Absolutely. If you could, what is it? That guy RuPaul says, that drag queen guy said, if you can't love yourself, you can't love nobody, or something like that. I don't know what he says, but I'm probably going to get into terrible trouble for being a spiritual teacher and watching RuPaul now. I'm used to it.
Well, I know we haven't even talked about ice cream yet, or your favorite food. And I guess there's one more thing that I had, since I don't see any other questions from the audience, because we talked about it before the show, and I think this is a powerful message, because we here in America also have had leaders, you love them, you hate them, right? Like our presidents go in office and they come out 8 years later and they look like they've aged like 100 years. And you guys just lost Queen Elizabeth, and I know that is a big deal in the spiritual realm. It's also a big deal globally. Everyone's mourning that loss. So any insights you want to share around her death that you've noticed or seen?
Well, it's a big deal in the spiritual world, because the spiritual world has a very clear view of the Queen, and it's not positive. And of course, some of these older bloodlines have created atrocities in lower densities, but it's really, really important now, as we go up as we observe our countenance and go up into a higher vibrational new awareness, that we're promoting those emotions that are what people call 5D and not 3D. So we're not going to heal the past with more hate, more anger, and more resentment. That's not where forgiveness and healing start. Forgiveness and healing start at acceptance and forgiveness. And that's where the real healing starts. So we have to park whether or not we like someone or not. And we have to move into those higher dimensional frequency emotions to heal and release and alchemize. We don't do it with hate, vitriol, whatever that person did, because you can't alchemize hate and atrocities with more hate.
Yeah. And it's fascinating how even the death of someone creates triggers, right? And creates the opportunity to look at your shadow or your anger or your hate and say, this is just sharing with everyone, my own journey with that too, is how do you come to peace? And you said it, forgiveness, acceptance.
I don't want to bring up the Holocaust, but what happened in the Holocaust was one of the worst atrocities that's ever happened to mankind, ever. And I read a book by a survivor who was at Belsen, and a lot of them died from the trauma. And he said, he and a whole lot of other people that he knew, that eventually they had to find some level of forgiveness in their heart. Otherwise, a lot of people committing suicide. The trauma, they had to release it in order just to live into old age. You have to release these things in the end. And people have a lot of ideas about who's good, who's bad. People in the hierarchy, big corporations, royal families. Yeah, there's a whole lot of density and darkness and things there, and stuff that has not been helpful to mankind. But we don't move forward into an ascended planet by propagating more of the same. We have to alchemize it with forgiveness and love. Otherwise, it stays in our hearts.
Thank you. I'm just soaking that in, because that's such a profound message. It's so important for all of you to just let that sink in, is Where are you holding on to that hate? Anything like you talk about here at Healthy and Wealthy and Wise, that's where we want you to be and become your highest and best version of yourself, whether or not you're Starseed, whether you thought today's episode was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs because you're like, what are they talking about? Aliens?
It is cuckoo. That's why it's so entertaining.
Well, I know we're wrapping up here. I want to make sure, and I'll put this in the show notes as well, but where can they buy your book and where can they find you, Alexander? And then I do have one more closing question that I'd like to ask.
Yeah, I'm on YouTube. You can find me on Telegram as well. I've got a new video coming out this Friday about the energies of September. Yeah, I mean, just type Starseeds. What's it all about? The book is everywhere. It's on. It's WH Smith, Amazon, Goodreads. It's everywhere. You won't have a hard time finding it.
Awesome. Is there anything else that's really heavy on your heart, or if you want to speak some light language to my audience, I'm also open to that. Anything else that you want to share before we wrap it up here?
Yeah, you promised we'd talk about ice cream.
What's your favorite flavor? Mine is Rocky Road.
I don't really eat a lot of ice cream anymore because I eat like vegan ice creams and stuff, but I used to love that Deletch one, which is caramel. It's Haagen-Dazs caramel, salted caramel and vanilla.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I don't
Okay,
ever
so
eat
you want to
ice
do some
cream
light
anymore.
language, yeah?
That would be amazing. And maybe explain, because this will be the first time on my show as well, what is light language? And then I would love for you to share.
Light language is the language of the soul. So the soul is very, very old. It can be hundreds of thousands of years old. It can be millions of years old, and sometimes it can be billions of years old. The soul is eternal. It never dies. We just keep coming back, coming down, going to other star systems, and as we go to other star systems, the soul has a language. Obviously, in other places they don't speak English. So star language is the language of the soul. And you don't learn star language, you remember star language. And my star language is Syrian and Arcturian, because I have incarnations from, I actually don't have that much incarnations in Syrian. But I do have a lot of incarnations in ancient Egypt, which is that Syrian essence that comes through. So the Arcturians, if they were to come down here and speak their soul essence, they don't speak in English. They speak light language. It's the language of the stars. Mine is Arcturian. So when I speak it, I'm speaking Arcturian.
Beautiful.
So let's wrap up on some light language and see what comes through. Itika shaka bawash nika shati baba shaka oa tia wat maka shati ba amba wakati shinika kashatia wambatia dan 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 da. Thank you. Basically, thank you so much for having me on, and it's a joy to bring the energies from the heaven down and connect to you all.
Beautiful. I want to ask you the same closing question that I ask every guest. It's very simple, very brief. And first of all, thank you so much again for gracing us with almost a whole hour of your time. Guys, please get his book. Even if you're just curious, it could blow your mind and change your life. And for us and our family, it's added so much more value to know thyself and to really do a deep dive into this message of the Starseeds and the ascension that we're going through together as a collective.
It'll definitely help you pass time if you're stuck on a train, for sure.
At the very least, and then you'll have people looking at you funny while you're sitting there with that book. Anyway, so when you hear the phrase, Alexander, healthy and wealthy and wise, what does that mean to you?
Healthy, wealthy, and wise. Yeah, that's a really, really good question. Healthy, wealthy, and wise. It sounds to me like that's someone who is in their authenticity and does know thyself. Because if you're in your authenticity and you know yourself, then you're in good health. And if you're in good health, you're vibrating at a higher level. And if you're vibrating at a higher level, you tend to be connected to your soul. And if you're connected to your soul, then you're connected to things that are going to bring you abundance. And if you're connected to bring things that are going to bring you abundance, then that means you're manifesting. And if you're manifesting, then that means you're actually actively in alignment with your highest excitements. And if you're if you're realigning to things that are your highest excitements, it means you know thyself, and you're actually creating it from the inner to the external world. So you could say you are your multidimensional star being self, and you're manifesting, but you're controlling your reality. You're bending it not only to help you and help others, because when you are in service to yourself, that's when you can be in service to others. So in helping yourself, you're helping the world. And people think it's the other way around, because in an inverted matrix, they would say that's selfish. But if you're in such a bad state, you can't help anyone else. You can't even help yourself. You can't help anyone else. So it sounds to me like your slogan sounds like a starseed who's in their power.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. Yeah, put your oxygen mask on first, they say on the plane. So why don't we do that every day for ourselves to help the collective? So thank you, Alexander. Everyone, please, if you saw value in this show, hit the share button with your community, and we'll be continuing this month of suicide awareness, mental health, and supporting this galactic family, now that I can say that openly on my show, and really truly living your best health, your best wealth, your best wisdom. I'll have more monologues this week, and an amazingly powerful guest with her suicide awareness topic next week, Friday, September 23rd. So until next time, guys, here's to your best health, your best wealth, and your best wisdom. Bye-bye for now. Well, all right. Thank you for attending another amazing Healthy and Wealthy and Wise show. Thank you so much. Please subscribe, download, leave a review or a rating. And also, if you felt like you could benefit from some help, maybe some magnetic mind support, maybe some lead generation and sales strategy, I would love to gift you a free month of my membership, or go to bookacallwithlois.com. That's right, www.bookacallwithlois.com. And if you haven't had a one-time free strategy session with me, that's my gift to you today for attending all the way to the end. Here's to your best health, your best wealth, and your best wisdom.